Hello and welcome to the Morrison Run, the podcast where we read and review everything by Grant Morrison. My name is Leon.
And
My name
I'm
is Bert.
Angwid.
And today we are reviewing the final chunk of Grant Morrison's Thugs Future Shock stories from 2000 AD. These are just short little stories in the sci-fi universe of 2000 AD. So I say let's get straight into it.
What you guys thinking? What you guys think about this first story? Fruitcake and the Veg. Ulysses Sweet in Fruitcake and the Veg. This guy was in our last episode. Kind of a crazy guy, always blowing stuff up. Unjustifiably. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this was an interesting story. This story, the main hook of it is that it's a world where vegetables are seen they're sort of like an enslaved people that are going to be freed by the Vegetable Liberation Front.
Yeah, that's the impression I got as well.
And what's his name? The guy, like the mercenary guy,
Ulysses Sweet.
Ulysses Sweet, he's like hired to go free a potato.
Like a king potato.
Yeah. But this guy, Ulysses Sweet, he we know this guy, and he'll do the job, but he doesn't care about this potato. So at the end, he's turned the potato into fries.
Oh, dang. No, I think so. Last episode, one of the stories we talked about being a bit bloated because it tried to do two stories in one short story. For me, I almost felt the same about this, but I think this balances it a bit better. So this is almost two stories, but I think what they do is that they bleed the stories into each other quite well. So the first half is like the Vegetable Liberation Army sort of like breaking into a supermarket or something and saving all the aubergines. And I like the fact that they have a sort of funny bit at the beginning. There's these people, and to us it's ridiculous to like try to save aubergines from oppression or whatever because they're inanimate in our world. And then they do that whole joke, and they're ridiculous. And then this Ulysses Sweet guy kind of takes the story from there, and he tries to defend this Potato King. Something I found kind of sad is that the Potato King just seems like a sweet, cute guy. Then he gets turned into fries. Also, how are you frying on that spaceship?
True.
Because I don't have much knowledge about space, but I know you need fat to be making fries like that, and fat's a liquid, and it's just gonna be like, unless he air fried it.
They've got air fryers in space, I bet.
In 2000 AD, they have air fryers. Well, that's fine then. But why would he waste his air? Because there's not that much air in a spacecraft.
Mm.
Just my thoughts. But yeah, what do you guys think that this is funny? Because I think because it's not as short as maybe other short stories, like the comedic bits don't, like the punchlines all get, like I kind of get all the punchlines about how like the Liberation Army are all kind of crazy, and then this Ulysses Sweet punchline at the end where he fries up the Potato King. But how funny would you say you guys found this story?
I think for me it was the least memorable. I mean, I read this a week ago and I actually forgot that the twist was the potato got fried at the end. So I don't know. I think, yeah, maybe it was the pacing that kind of weakened that impact for me.
I think it's interesting that Grant Morrison was like so interested in this character to do this much story about him. This is a two-parter with like this character, and then also this character was used in a story we talked about last episode, and that was also, I think, a lot of our like least favorite story from last episode. Not that it was bad, but it's just like interesting that this character that I don't see loads. To be fair, this story charmed me to him a little bit more when he's talking a little bit about kind of his backstory and why he is the way he is, I'm like, oh, he is kind of cool. And I could have seen a future where this character more was done with him, but I think compared to so many of the other 2000 ED characters that have popped up, I think it's interesting that this one stood out. I don't really see why.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure who designed this character because, I mean, for all I know, it could be a character that predates Morrison writing, but I think it is a good character design, just like a big guy with a cool jacket and loads of like weird weapons, a bit like Cable or something
Yeah, I was gonna say.
from.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's a fun design, and I see the appeal of wanting to write stories for this character. Yeah, I do find it weird though that if this is just a follow-up to that one other story, that story was about like a robot versus human war.
Yeah.
And now this is on another planet about a vegetable versus people war. But I do quite like those sort of space stories where, we move to a new planet, there's different rules, different
Mm.
goings on, and then maybe another story about this character would be somewhere completely different. I think that's fun. I just
Yeah.
think if this wasn't a pre-existing character, yeah, I don't quite know why they've decided to continue working on this character and leave everything else about that story behind. But
Yeah.
no, it's a bit of fun.
I think there's something extra funny about how the two stories, the robot human war and the vegetable human war, kind of follow the same story beats. Almost like this guy is in this sort of um like hamster wheel where he's just constantly doing the exact same thing. He joins in a major conflict, chooses one of the sides, and then essentially just blows everyone up, right? Like a sort of like chaotic character in that way. And I think, not to compare necessarily, but I do find this. I think even though it follows similar beats, I think that this vegetable one for me hit a bit better. Maybe one because the idea of defending vegetables is more funny, just like inherently, than a sort of a robot versus human war, which is not more serious necessarily, but it's more justifiable and more reasonable. I think of the more ridiculous nature of this conflict, I think, for me, lended it to being a bit funnier. Shall we move on to the next one? Big trouble for Blast Barclay, like the bank. There's a character that I'm thinking of that this character reminds me of. What's his name?
Flash
Like
Gordon?
Flash Gordon, Flash
Yeah.
Gordon. That's who it is. Yeah. I
Yeah,
saw a Flash Gordon movie when I was a kid.
this
Yeah.
story
It was pretty weird.
this story is basically, it's got like a typical sci-fi kind of Flash Gordon, Star Wars kind of setup. It's got a very like old school
Pulpy.
sci-fi, pulpy, yeah, aesthetic to it. Just a very classic setup, but it has all of the main characters of the kind of space team, such as Blast Barclay, getting into like various legal troubles. They're kind of called out by a guy in a hat. He's
I
a
think it's like a journalist.
yeah. What's his name? Blast Barclay's been doing something weird with like benefits because he doesn't get any money from being like a space hero.
Yeah.
And his like scientist friend is actually an illegal immigrant, and gets called out for that. And but it turns out that the whole thing is actually set up by Blast Barclay's arch nemesis, who is
Hmm.
he's gonna launch the invasion of the
Yeah.
the hamster hordes of Harak.
Sort of. It reminds me a bit of the Superman movie,
Mm.
where like a supernatural character gets involved with like natural conflict because of another supernatural character.
I was gonna say it feels very like it feels very Grant Morrison to me. Like this
Hmm.
lines up with a lot of superhero stories where it's like they put in this kind of real world element, and having a superhero come to terms with something real and modern, but then it's still fully involved within a fantasy world and fantasy
Hmm.
story.
Yeah. 100%. I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, I think it works, but I don't love the fact that this conflict is orchestrated by another supernatural character. For me, I think it would hit a bit more if it was literally just Blast Barclay is on benefits and people hate him, and his assistant is a legal immigrant, and then like this like sort of like pulpy space hero has to deal with very real world problems.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
actually be interesting as well. I do like though the design of Harak, the villain. He's like a hamster samurai Darth Vader kind of guy.
Yeah, he looks cool. Reminds me of Master Splinter a bit.
Yes. Shredder
Hmm.
as well,
Both,
sort
yeah,
of fused together.
yeah. That was a good series.
TMNT.
Yeah, TMNT,
I
big up.
agree. Yeah.
I think when I first read this quite quick, I was more just focusing on the last page and kind of thought that the this guy that had been working with the alien, that he'd just kind of been sent to sort of divide the people and stuff so that they could sneak in and invade. That's kind
Hmm.
of how I read the story, but I kind of maybe just zoned out of the first bit a little. So I kind
Yeah.
of that's kind of what I thought it was about. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of piecing this story together is a little bit tricky, but I
Hmm.
do really like the art a lot. I just like the just how retro it is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Flash Gordon, but also just old school comics. That kind of
Mm.
Jack Kirby space looking layout at the start is really cool. Just their little ray guns and stuff in the first page, and then the like, is it the scientist that's wearing that suit? And it just kind of that helmet makes no sense, but it just looks really cool. Like some
Well, I think it's Blast that wears the helmet, right?
right.
Yeah. It's very
Oh
silly. It
yeah,
looks
yeah,
a bit like a tele. It looks a bit like a Teletubby.
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's fun. I think it's just the design that I'm talking about. Even the spaceships in the last panel, I just like the sort of yeah retro future sci-fi stuff.
Hmm.
It's a cool aesthetic. Okay, we're moving on to I don't know which was the third I sent you.
I think it's the invisible etchings of Salvador Dali. On the subject of art, I think this was my favorite one. I don't always love um horror comics. Yeah, I think that it's a great opportunity for artists to like flex a bit, if you know what I mean, with design. Um,
Yeah,
but especially when it's in color, it doesn't always hit for me. But because a lot of these Stark stories are in black and white, this really worked for me. Especially like near the end, there's this like weird slug alien, and it reminded me a lot of some Berserk thing goes.
yeah. I don't know how much of this is from Salvador Dali's real paintings and how much was just made
Mm,
as a bit of an homage, but 'cause, like I don't know, that slug thing could be from a painting. I'd believe
yeah.
that, but um, I I can't say that with confidence.
Hmm.
But how does the story go? So he's in this Salvador Dali world,
So
but then
he
he
views himself as a hero, trying to like, but he's a crazy guy. And then basically, so it's kind of like a dream within a dream was the impression that I got, where he imagines a world. So he views himself as like a space hero, protecting people from crazy aliens, and then also like discovering the invisible etchings of Salvador Dali. And then in his dream, he wakes up um in like as a crazy person. No, never mind. So it's not a dream within a dream. It's just he views himself as a space hero fighting aliens, but he's actually in like
yeah,
a mental ward.
because
Yeah.
I
So
thought
I think
his
he dreams all these things.
but isn't the twist maybe that kind of some of the things he's imagining are spilling into
Yeah.
the real world? Like the police
So I
officer opens the curtains and then this tree from the Salvador Dali painting is outside.
So I think maybe the world that they exist in is like is also based on Salvador Dali paintings. So in a way, he actually can be a hero in real life because he's crazy and he thinks of himself as a hero in his dreams. It is a bit. It's a bit weird to get your head around. It's weird, but the art is amazing.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
the slug's great.
I think they just I feel like they just let the artist go crazy with this one.
Jay
Yeah.
Nicklington.
Yeah.
I think it's really unique art for a comic as well, because I just think some of the intricacies of the way it's been inked and stuff is not something you usually see given the time constraints in comic. Apart from in some more fine-tuned, like independent comics, where they've maybe spent a lot of time on it. In this sort of weekly comic, you don't usually see something so kind of bizarre and detailed, and I don't know. I think it's quite impressive. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Grant Morrison is a fan of these paintings as well. So
Yeah.
I guess Grant Morrison just got a free commission on some cool Salvador Dali inspired drawings they wanted to see.
What's that? There's like a term you learn in English literature for like a set of words that are in like a certain world.
Semantic field.
Yeah, I feel like the semantic field of this comic is like similar to a lot of the things Grant Morrison usually references, like Salvador Dali, and then also like random like history references, like I think like Mussolini's referenced and things like that. It's a very kind of art history academic semantic field of references that I feel like Grant Morrison likes to pull from a lot in other
Yeah.
things like we're going to see in Doom Patrol as well. I feel like there's
Mhm.
something kind of similar to this.
Yeah. The story's not that intricate, and I mean, unlike some of the other ones, it's not like funny, but I think it does do a good job at showing you some like pretty horrific imagery, whilst also being entertaining.
Yeah.
This next story is my favorite. It's called Fair Exchange. I actually, I mean, I like some of the stories from last time, but generally, if I had to choose a favorite of all the Tharg stories, which I guess is fitting because it's our last episode, of Tharg stories, it might be this one, to be honest.
Maybe me too. I really like this one as well.
Yeah, I just thought that it like, it just got me. It was funny in the right ways. It like I actually disliked the villain. And I actually really liked the protagonist, and it just really worked for me.
Um,
So just to summarize it, basically, there's this rich guy who hires this alien to do him to paint him some paintings. I think it starts at 6. He has to do in a day, 200 in a day, and he thinks he's taking advantage of this alien, which he is. He's trying to take advantage of him. Obviously, there's very clear topics about the exploitation of artists here.
Yeah.
And what he does is he gives this alien like earth rubbish, right? And then he tries to sell all these paintings. The twist then becomes that the earth rubbish on this alien's planet is worth like millions, and that all the paintings that this alien did are all graffiti in his culture. So then when some high-ranking political figure from this planet sees the art in this what's it called when you run an art gallery?
He's an art dealer, I think is what they
Curate.
said.
An
But
art dealer, yeah, curator. In this curator's gallery, he's like dragged out for being offensive and stuff. It's just like kind of cute and nice.
I think that ending is interesting because a lot of this story, yeah, you can is just about the exploitation of artists generally, but especially that last part adds an element of like almost like cultural appropriation vibes where it's like he's playing off this art as his own, but he doesn't actually understand the cultural meaning of it.
Yeah.
I think it tackles all these themes very, very like it touches on them all very quickly,
Yeah,
which is good because that's the way the medium works. But I think that it's very good with how short it is. I also
I
think the designs for these aliens is very cute. But then when you have this high-ranking official, it also works in a sort of Jabba the Hutt like gluttony way, where you're like, yeah, this official kind of sucks. But the artist, the alien himself, the artist alien is really cute.
agree.
I like this one a lot. I think I think the design of the alien as well. Like I think you feel bad for him because he looks like young and innocent and sort of
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of tell he's just being manipulated by this curator guy. But then I
Yeah.
think the reveal that he was just writing some inappropriate things and stuff in this alien language as well. I think it kind of the character design's still fitting. He still looks like he's just been having fun doing this, and
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, it doesn't. It's not a plot twist that recontextualizes that character. I think
I agree.
everything feels just quite coherent throughout the story and works quite nicely. And just the art generally is really nice.
Mm.
And yeah, I think everything you've said I agree with. I like this.
I think it's similar. I guess saying what you were saying, but in a different way, is that even at the end of this story, I still genuinely believe that this little artist alien really likes this art and was trying to make this art the best that it could, even though they were being asked to make 100 paintings a day, 200 paintings a day, right? I think that to him that this is art and this is really good and this is the best that he could do in that time. I don't think that he was trying to make bad art to take advantage of this
Yeah,
other guy. I think that in a way this art dealer was trying to take advantage of him, but luckily it all worked out in the right way. Like justice fell
yeah,
Yeah,
because I
as it
think
should.
they showed that he just thought he was being praised and stuff. I think almost
Hmm.
like the manipulation backfired because he was pretending to understand it and obviously didn't. So
Mm.
at no point was the alien actually trying to offend or anything. I think it doesn't like sort of diminish the plot twist of well, not the plot twist, just the curator guy being a bad person.
our final story.
Is Return to Sender.
This, to generally explain it, is a story about a guy who has written a script for Nova Comics, which I
Hmm.
think is just a made-up comic company. But he puts it in a sort of magic letterbox, and then it makes its way all around the universe through so many different aliens and so many different tribulations. This one letter goes through, and then it finally gets to Nova Comics, and they reject the script and return to sender because the story that it's about is the story that we've been reading about a letter.
It's too far-fetched.
It's too far fetched.
So do we think this
I
is a real thing that happened to Grant Morrison?
I believe it.
Yeah, I do.
I definitely believe that Grant Morrison has written scripts and had them rejected, and I imagine the inspiration for this story is Grant Morrison being like, oh, what if one of these scripts was read by aliens and caused a 50,000 year long alien war? Wouldn't that be crazy?
I mean, it's kind of like the journey that the letter physically goes through in this. It's only to be rejected is sort of just like how much work goes into making a script or making a piece of art for a company that can be so easily just dismissed.
Mm.
It's like it
I
goes
think
through a
also
whole
the
journey.
comedy.
Mm.
I think the comedy comes from the fact of how important it is to these aliens, like all these aliens that read it throughout the story, and how unimportant it is to I guess, the team at the end, the
Yeah.
Nova Comics team.
Who
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the human characters here are drawn in a way that makes me think they're probably based on real people, maybe that work at 2000 AD.
Yeah.
They
I
look
see what you're saying.
they look like
Yeah,
they're
I would be surprised.
yeah. I wouldn't be able to say who exactly those represent, but it looks like that.
I think it could just be a couple guys in Grant's office, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I like as well. In one of the last panels, you see these two guys looking at the script, and then there's just like a sort of faint outline of these invisible aliens disappearing because there was an alien disease picked up as it was traveling through space, and they're sort of screaming just as this normal conversation's going on in the background. I
Yeah.
think it's just a fun contrast. And I think maybe you could look at it from one angle as just like maybe it's about the value of art, and some things will be important to one person and not to the editors or whatever. But I think just like if you take it at face value, it's a fun story about just this kind of crazy domino effect. Or what would you call it? Butterfly.
Butterfly effect, yeah. I think all the designs as well, of the aliens contrast very well to each other. Well, initially it seems that the aliens seem humanoid, right? Um, and and then it moves on to like these very scary looking aliens, almost like we keep talking about Metroid, but they do look a bit like, oh, what's that big guy in Metroid called? The big gross alien.
I don't know.
Let me Google this.
I don't really know Metroid.
Bosses in Metroid. Kraid. It looks like the aliens look a bit like Kraid from Metroid, right? And then there's these postman aliens, and they're really cute, and they just look like anthropomorphic reptiles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think this story is really cute, and I think it's in a way it is a great story to leave off this series with, because it's a story almost about these stories, you know,
True.
and about how we have spent all this time valuing these stories, but there'll be many people who view all these short stories as kind of disposable, and I'm sure when they were made they weren't written to, and people weren't like, oh, these are going to be reread, you know what I mean? It was, oh, people will read these when they come out, and then we'll just make a new one, right?
Yeah.
But in Grant Morrison, I think, is very interested in, especially we saw in Animal Man, in these themes of us as readers giving stories their value, right?
Mm.
And I think that, you know, even if whoever doesn't value a story, if we really like it, then it is valuable.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good sentiment.
I think it's really interesting that we've ended with the art dealer story and then this one.
Yeah.
They touch on similar themes, and I think a lot of Grant's stories are actually like meta things about the comic book industry and whatever. But you know,
Yeah, I do.
pretty cool. And I feel like a lot of what we've seen in Thugs Future Shock is like Grant trying out different ideas that we've then seen them expand on more in later stories as well. So so this is the end of Thugs Future Shock.
End, yeah.
Or our experience with it. Obviously,
Yeah,
it
of Grant
exists
Morrison.
outside of Grant Morrison,
With
but
Morrison, right.
I mean, first of all, what was your favorite of the stories that we reviewed today?
Oh, definitely the art dealer one.
I agree.
Yeah. The fair exchange one.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say the art one too. I think in terms of the artwork though, I think I've kind of consistently liked everything we've gone through. Just a lot of there's been a lot of range, I think, in terms of I think the art one, and then the fruitcake and veg one. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, Fruitcake and Veg.
Those ones both have very sort of cartoony styles, but in sort of different ways. And like I talked about the Elisa Sweet guy looking a bit like Cable. It's kind of a bit like that kind of animated series X-Men sort of look. And then there's the Flash Gordon one. I sort of said maybe Jack Kirby or Retro Comics, and then the Salvador Dali one was kind of crazy, and then the Return to Sender was a little bit more, I guess, realistic in terms of the way they draw people and that sort of thing. But I've 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 liked that aspect of it the most, and I think in terms of story, I'd say yeah, the one about the art curator and the alien. In one of the other stories, I think it was the Elisa Sweet one. At one point, it looks like that alien from the other story is in it somewhere. I think, yeah, just buying something. I don't think it's not quite the same character design, but I was just thinking when I was reading that one, I was like, have they just got like a general character design sheet where like a lot of these aliens are appearing and reappearing because the guards in that comic as well are the exact same character design as in the
Mm,
um, Danger Genius at Work story we looked at in another episode. Uh,
that's cool.
I think I don't know if it's just like there's only so many concepts you can come up with for these aliens, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're just allowed to rip each other off, or maybe Grant Morrison likes a design and suggests it to the artist or something. But um,
Mm.
I don't know.
What about Tharg's Future Shock? Overall, everything we've reviewed,
All of Tharg.
what are your guys' favorite stories?
The other one that comes to mind is the one about the guy that was running from these aliens.
Yeah,
He gets
Some
caught, he turns into one,
some
and
people
then
never listen.
yeah.
yeah,
We don't.
no,
Yeah,
No, no, that's a different one. Is
that's a
it?
different one. But once he turns
Yes.
into an alien, he actually remembers he was an alien the whole time, and he got
Yes,
to be
yes.
a person, and then now he's like transforming back, and I
yeah.
don't know. I just thought that was quite a fun
I remember
twist.
that one,
It was
yeah.
a whole ordeal.
I feel like the ones that have been 3 pages have been the sort of perfect middle ground for these short stories,
Hmm.
especially because they revolve around either comedy or horror, which I feel like often in comics have similar sort of pacing for these short stories where you just want like a really solid twist at the end and some in these sci-fi stories specifically just some funny looking aliens.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely.
yes,
I mean,
I think
you can go into the parallels of horror and comedy all day. There's a reason two-sentence
yeah.
horror is always hilarious.
That's true. That's
Right.
fair.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. I do know. I was
Yeah,
thinking when we watched Get Out as well by Jordan
Jordan
Peele, I
Peele.
was thinking that setup could have been a Key and Peele sketch.
Yeah.
Like it very much escalated in the same way as some of those sketches do.
Well, he said something similar, Jordan Peele. He said that
Yeah,
the only
I can.
difference between comedy and horror is the music.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I quite like Candy and the Catchman. I remember that being quite scary, and the
Yeah,
twist at the end of that one actually being really good. Yeah, but I agree with the one with Bertie. All the ones where aliens are chasing you are really funny.
I actually saw an auction on one of the Candy and the Catchman sketch like ink pages, but it was very
Whoa.
expensive. So, but I was like, that would be a really cool thing to own if I could afford it.
If
It was
Mm,
yeah,
if we ever got a proper podcast studio, that would be like a sick thing to have on the wall.
yeah,
that's facts.
yeah. I liked Candy and the Catchman a lot.
Well, with that, we're done with Tharg's Future Shock. Yeah. That was a fun
Yeah, yeah.
time. I don't think anyone's listening to these episodes, but if they are, love you. And thank you so much for listening. Any last words, guys?
Keep Tharging.
Tharg life.
The f- the future is shocking.
Who else up thug in their future shock?
Thank you everyone who has listened and who continues to listen. Any thoughts? Let us know. We love to hear what you have to say. Um, and and thank you for listening.
Gangsta Grizzle, Grizzle, Grizzle,
And with that, I've been Angwin.
I've been Leon.